It started at exactly 2:13 a.m., not 2:12, not 2:14. I know that because a timestamp is burned into my memory, the moment everything went from annoying HOA drama to something way darker. My phone buzzed hard against the coffee table, rattling loud enough to wake me from a half-sleep on the couch. The TV was still on, some late-night rerun casting flickering blue light across the room. At first, I ignored it. Probably another useless HOA alert. Linda loved sending those out at all hours, parking violations, trash can warnings, unauthorized holiday decorations. You name it. Then it buzzed again. And again. 3 times in under 10 seconds. That's when my eyes snapped open. Something wasn't right. I grabbed my phone, squinting at the screen, and instantly felt my chest tighten. Security alert, motion detected, living room window. I froze. That window faced the backyard. No street access. No foot traffic. No reason for anyone to be there, especially not at 2:13 in the morning. A second notification popped up before I could even process the first. Window sensor. Open. My heart dropped. Then I heard it. A soft metallic scrape. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone forcing something open, inch by inch. Every instinct in my body screamed the same thing. You're not alone. I stood up slowly, trying not to make a sound. The house felt different now, like the walls were holding their breath. My eyes darted toward the hallway leading to my kids' room. Still quiet. Still closed. Thank God. I moved toward the kitchen, each step careful, controlled. My fingers brushed across the counter until they wrapped around something solid, a heavy cast-iron pan. Not ideal, but it had weight. And right now, that was enough. Another sound, closer this time, a dull thud, like something, or someone, had made it inside. Adrenaline hit me hard, sharp and electric. My breathing slowed automatically, like my body had switched into survival mode without asking permission. I edged toward the living room entrance. And then, I saw her. At first, my brain couldn't make sense of what I was looking at. A figure crouched low near the window, moving, adjusting, standing up slowly. Then the light from the TV flickered across her face, and everything clicked into place. Linda Parker, my HOA president, inside my house. For a split second, I genuinely thought I was dreaming, because nothing about this made sense. Linda wasn't just stepping inside. She had crawled through my window, actually climbed in. Like a criminal, her blazer was wrinkled. Her hair, normally perfect, was slightly out of place. There was dirt on her sleeve, and yet somehow she still carried herself like she belonged there, like this was normal, like I was a problem. She dusted her hands off, glanced around the room, and let out an irritated sigh. Finally, she muttered, "I knew you were ignoring my notices." I didn't move, didn't speak, because if I did, I wasn't sure I'd stay calm. Linda turned and saw me, standing there, holding a cast-iron pan. For a brief second, something flickered across her face. Not fear, not even surprise, just annoyance. "Oh, good," she said flatly. "You're awake." I blinked. "You broke into my house." Her expression tightened immediately, like I'd said something offensive. "I did not break in," she snapped. "Your window was clearly unsecured. That's a violation under HOA safety regulations." I stared at her, trying to process the sheer insanity of what she just said. "You crawled through my window at 2 in the morning." "You weren't responding," she shot back. "I've sent 3 formal notices, 2 emails, and a final warning about your backyard modifications." "Backyard modifications?" My grip tightened around the pan. "You mean the fence?" "It exceeds approved height limits," she said instantly, like she had been rehearsing it. "And the camera system you installed is not HOA compliant." I almost laughed. "Almost. You're standing in my living room," I said slowly, "at 2 a.m., after climbing through a window, and you're talking about fence height." Linda folded her arms, completely serious. This community has standards. That's when something inside me shifted. Not fear, not confusion, something colder. "You need to leave," I said. "Now." Her jaw tightened. "I will," she said. Once I document the violations. And just like that, she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. Started taking pictures. Of my house. My furniture. My living room. Like this was some kind of inspection. Like this was normal. Like she had the right. Linda, I said, my voice sharper now. Put the phone down. She ignored me. Snapped another picture. That's when everything escalated. Because from down the hallway, a small voice broke the silence. Dad? My heart dropped. My kid, awake. And before I could even react, the alarm system triggered. A deafening siren exploded through the house. Red lights flashed. And Linda actually jumped this time. What is that? She shouted, spinning around. I didn't answer, because now everything had changed. The system wasn't just loud. It was smart. It had already done what it was designed to do. Police dispatch. Notified. Linda's face went pale. For the first time since she crawled into my house. She looked scared. Turn it off, she demanded. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't lower the pan. No, I said, and in the distance, faint but unmistakable, sirens were already on their way. Linda took a step back, then another. Her confidence was cracking now, piece by piece. You're overreacting, she said quickly. This doesn't need to involve law enforcement. I just looked at her, standing there, in my house, at 2 a.m, after breaking in, after waking my kid, after acting like she owned the place. And I said the only thing that mattered now. You should have thought about that before you came through my window. The sirens got louder, closer, and for the first time all night, Linda Parker didn't look like the one in control. The sirens got louder by the second, not distant anymore, not background noise. They were coming fast, and Linda knew it. Her entire posture shifted. The rigid confidence she walked in with was cracking now, replaced by something frantic, something desperate. Turn it off. She snapped again, her voice tighter this time. You're going to make this worse than it needs to be. I didn't respond, didn't move, because for the first time since this started, I wasn't the one on edge. She was. From the hallway, I heard my kid again. Dad, what's happening? I turned slightly, keeping my eyes on Linda. It's okay, I said, steady but firm. Stay in your room. Lock the door. A pause, then the soft click of the lock engaging. Good. Linda exhaled sharply, running a hand through her hair. This is exactly what I was trying to avoid, she muttered. I almost laughed at that. Breaking into my house was your solution. I did not break in, she insisted again, louder now, like saying it enough times would make it true. This is a community compliance issue, and you've been unresponsive. And that gives you the right to crawl through my window. You left me no choice. That sentence hung in the air, heavy, delusional, and completely unbelievable. The flashing red light from the alarm system painted the room in pulses, making everything feel surreal, like this wasn't real life, like I was stuck in some kind of bizarre nightmare. But then, headlights swept across the front windows, doors slammed outside, and voices followed. Police. Anyone inside. Linda stiffened. Her eyes darted toward the front door, then back to me, and just like that, something flipped. The panic vanished, replaced by something calculated, controlled. She straightened her blazer, quickly smoothed her hair, and took a deep breath like she was about to step onto a stage. That's when I knew. She wasn't done, not even close. Before I could say anything, she moved, fast, not toward the window, not toward the exit, toward the front door. Wait, I started. Too late. She unlocked it and pulled it open just as the officers reached the porch. Officers! Linda called out, her voice suddenly calm, composed, almost relieved. Thank goodness you're here. I stared at her, stunned, because the tone she was using, it wasn't defensive, it wasn't guilty, it was authoritative, like she was the one who called them. 2 officers stepped inside, hands resting near their belts, scanning the room quickly. Their eyes landed on me first, standing there, holding a cast-iron pan. Not a great look. Sir, one of them said cautiously, can you set that down for me? I hesitated for half a second, then slowly lowered the pan onto the table. Good. He nodded. Now can someone explain what's going on here? Linda didn't give me the chance. She stepped forward immediately. I'm so glad you're here, she said, her voice steady but edged with urgency. I'm the HOA president for this community. I was conducting a compliance follow-up when this homeowner became aggressive. I blinked. Aggressive? You broke into my house. I cut in, but she kept going, like she didn't even hear me. I attempted to make contact multiple times over the past week regarding several violations, she continued, pulling out her phone like it was evidence. There was no response. Tonight, I observed that the rear window was unsecured, which raised a safety concern. One of the officers frowned slightly, and that led you to enter the home. Linda didn't hesitate. Yes, for community safety verification purposes. The silence that followed was thick, uncomfortable. Even the officers looked unsure how to process that. I let out a short, disbelieving laugh. She crawled through my window at 2 a.m. The second officer raised an eyebrow, glancing between us. Is that accurate? Linda's jaw tightened, but only slightly. I entered through an unsecured access point. Yes, she admitted carefully, but my intentions were strictly professional. Professional? I shook my head. This is insane. Sir, the first officer said, turning to me now, we'll get your side in a second. Just let her finish. Linda gave a small, satisfied nod, like she had just regained control of the situation. That's when I realized something. She thought this would work. She genuinely believed she could talk her way out of this. Maybe she'd done it before. Maybe people had let things slide. Maybe no one had ever pushed back hard enough. Until now. Is there anyone else in the home? The second officer asked. My child, I answered quickly. In their room. Door locked. Good, he said. We'll check on that in a moment. Linda shifted slightly, and that's when the first crack showed again, because the officer's attention wasn't fully on her anymore. It was widening, taking in the whole scene. The open window, the disturbed frame, the dope marks on the floor, and Linda's sleeve, still smudged, still obverse. The first officer said slowly, Can you step over here for a moment? Just a small change in tone, but enough. Linda noticed it too, and for the first time since they arrived. She hesitated. Is there a problem? She asked. Just a couple questions, he replied. She forced a smile. Of course. As she stepped aside with the officer, the second one turned to me. All right, he said quietly. Start from the beginning. So I did. Every alert, every sound, every second. I didn't exaggerate. Didn't need to. The truth was already unbelievable enough. As I spoke, I saw it happen. That shift, that moment when the officer's expression changed from neutral to concerned to something closer to disbelief. And then she said I left her no choice. I finished. The officer exhaled slowly. Okay, he said. Stay right here. Across the room, Linda was still talking, but now her voice had lost that polished edge. It was sharper, faster, less controlled. And then everything stopped because the first officer said something that cut through the room like a blade. I'm going to need you to turn around. Silence. Linda blinked. I'm sorry. Turn around, he repeated. Hands behind your back. The color drained from her face. This is ridiculous, she snapped. You don't understand. I understand enough, he said firmly. Turn around. For a split second, it looked like she might argue, might push back, might try one last time to control the situation. But then she saw it. The second officer already stepping closer. The certainty in their posture. The fact that this wasn't a discussion anymore. Slowly, reluctantly, Linda turned around. And as the handcuffs clicked into place, the same woman who had climbed through my window like she owned everything, finally realized she had just crossed a line she couldn't talk her way out of. But even then, as they started reading her rights, she twisted her head just enough to look at me. And what she said next, it sent a chill straight through me. This isn't over. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. By the time the police finished taking statements, checking the house, and hauling Linda away, it was already pushing 4 a.m. The alarm system was reset. The window was temporarily sealed. My kid was back in bed, though I could tell it was shaken. And me? I just sat there on the couch, wide awake, staring at the same window she crawled through, trying to process what had just happened. Because this wasn't just some random break-in. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was targeted, personal, and deep down, I knew something else too. Linda wasn't the type to just accept consequences and move on. That warning she gave me, this isn't over. Yeah, that wasn't just anger talking. That was a promise. By 9 a.m., the neighborhood already knew. Not the truth, not even close, but a version of it. And somehow, in that version, I was a problem. It started with a notification on the community app. Emergency HOA update, resident incident. I opened it, already expecting something twisted. Still wasn't prepared for what I read. Last night, a routine HOA compliance check escalated into an unfortunate situation involving a homeowner displaying aggressive behavior. Law enforcement was called as a precaution. The HOA remained committed to maintaining safety and standards within our community. I stared at the screen. Aggressive behavior? Precaution? No mention of her breaking in. No mention of the window. No mention of the fact that she was literally arrested inside my house. Just a carefully crafted narrative. Clean, controlled, and completely misleading. Comments were already flooding in. Some people just can't follow rules. HOA need to be stricter. Hope the board takes action. I clenched my jaw. This was happening fast. Too fast. Which meant one thing. She wasn't acting alone. By noon, I got the first letter. Hand-delivered. Of course. Official HOA envelope. Bold lettering. Urgent. I didn't even bother sitting down before opening it. Inside, 3 violation notices. All dated that same morning. Unauthorized security system installation. Non-compliant fence structure. Hostile conduct toward HOA representative. I actually laughed at that one. Hostile conduct. Right. Because defending your own house at 2 a.m. is apparently a violation now. At the bottom of the letter was a real punch. Failure to comply within 72 hours may result in fines, legal action, or lien placement on the property. I read it twice, then a third time, not because I didn't understand it, but because I couldn't believe the audacity. She had been arrested, and somehow this machine was still moving, still pushing, still coming after me. That's when the second wave hit. Neighbors. At first, it was subtle. Curtains moving. People watching. The usual quiet curiosity. But then, it shifted. I stepped outside to grab the mail, and conversation stopped. Literally stopped. 2 houses down, a couple who used to wave at me every morning suddenly turned away like I wasn't even there. Across the street, someone took a picture. Didn't even try to hide it. I felt it immediately. That shift, that invisible line being drawn, not because of what happened, but because of what they were told happened. And that's how HOAs really operate. Not just through rules, through pressure, reputation, control. By the afternoon, I decided I wasn't playing defense anymore. I called the police department, requested a copy of the incident report. If Linda wanted to twist the story, fine, I'd bring the real one. The officer I spoke to recognized the case immediately. Yeah, that one's already getting attention, he said. Attention? That caught me off guard. What do you mean? There was a pause. Then, let's just say, it's not every day an HOA president gets arrested for unlawful entry. Unlawful entry. Finally, a term that actually matched reality. He told me the report would be ready by the next morning. Good, because I had a feeling I'd need it. Soon. But the real escalation came that evening. Right around 6:30. I was in the kitchen when I heard it. A knock. Not aggressive. Not loud. Just deliberate. I walked to the door and opened it. And there they were. 3 people. Standing in a straight line. All wearing the same expression. Neutral. Controlled. Calculated. The HOA board. Or at least what was left of it. Good evening. The man in the center said, "We'd like to speak with you regarding last night's incident." I leaned against the doorframe. "Funny," I said. "I thought the police already handled that." A flicker of irritation crossed his face, but only for a second. "This is a separate matter," he replied, "internal to the association." Of course it was. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "Make it quick." The woman on the left stepped forward slightly, holding a folder. "Given the circumstances," she said, "the board is conducting a review of your residency status within the community." I blinked. "My residency status?" "Yes," the man said calmly. "There are concerns regarding compliance, cooperation, and overall community fit." I let that sit for a second. Then I nodded slowly. "Let me get this straight," I said. "Your president breaks into my house, gets arrested, and now you're reviewing whether I belong here." Silence. Not denial, not correction, just silence. That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about rules anymore. This was about power, and they were trying to reassert it. The man stepped closer, lowered his voice. "You should consider resolving this quietly," he said. "Remove the violations. Avoid escalation." There it was. The offer, the pressure, the unspoken message. Full in line. Or things get worse. I looked him straight in the eyes and shook my head. No, that one word changed everything. Because a polite mask? Gone. Completely gone. "Then you're making a mistake," he said coldly. I didn't flinch. "Yeah," I replied, so was crawling through my window. They turned, walked away. No more words. No more pretending. And as I stood there, watching them leave, I realized something that hit harder than anything else so far. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because now, it wasn't just Linda. It was the entire HOA. And they weren't trying to fix the situation. They were trying to bury it. That night, I double-checked every lock, every sensor, every camera. Not out of fear, but out of preparation. Because something told me, if they were willing to go this far already, then whatever came next would be worse, a lot worse. The next morning, I got the police report, and it was everything I needed. Clear, direct, unfiltered, unlawful entry confirmed. Subject entered residence without permission. Arrest made on site. No gray areas, no misunderstanding. Just facts. I printed 3 copies immediately, because something told me I wasn't the only one who needed to read it. By noon, I posted it, right on the community app. No rant, no insults, just one sentence. Since there seems to be confusion, here's what actually happened. And attached, the report, unedited. Within minutes, the reaction flipped. Comments started changing tone fast. "Wait, she broke IN. This isn't what we were told. Is this real?" Oh, it was real. And now, they couldn't ignore it anymore. But that wasn't even the biggest move. Because later that day, I got a call from a lawyer, not mine, someone else's. "Hi," she said. "I represent 2 former residents from this HOA, and they saw your post." I leaned back slowly. "Okay." There was a pause. Then she dropped it. "They've had similar issues with Linda." Similar, not identical. Worse, way worse. Unauthorized inspections, threats, harassment. One case involving entering a backyard without permission. Another involving fines used as pressure tactics. And guess what? None of it had ever gone public. Until now. That's when I realized this wasn't just my fight anymore. This was a pattern. And Linda, she'd been getting away with it for years. Section 5, the collapse of control. Within 48 hours, everything started falling apart. Fast. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Not optional. Mandatory. And for the first time since I moved into that neighborhood, people showed up angry. Not quiet. Not passive. Angry. Voices were raised before the meeting even officially started. Why weren't we told the truth? Is this what our dues are paying for? Are we all being watched like this? I stood in the back, silent, watching, because this This wasn't something I needed to push anymore. It was happening on its own. Then the board stepped up. Same people who stood at my door the night before. But now, different energy. Nervous, defensive, cornered. The man who had warned me to resolve things quietly cleared his throat. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. That didn't go well. Misunderstanding, someone shouted. She broke into his house. Applause. Actual applause. The narrative was gone, shattered, and they had nothing to replace it with. Then came the final blow. The lawyer showed up, unannounced, but perfectly timed. She didn't yell, didn't argue. She just presented documents, cases, complaints, records, all tied to Linda, all ignored. Until now, the room went silent, because at that point, it wasn't about me anymore. It was about liability, legal exposure, real consequences. And just like that, the board made their move. Linda Parker was officially removed as HOA president. Effective immediately, an internal investigation was launched, and all active violations, including mine, frozen. Section 6, the aftermath. A week later, everything was quiet again, but not the same kind of quiet. This one felt different, cleaner, real. The violation notices, gone, completely dismissed. The residency review, never mentioned again. Funny how that works. Neighbors who once avoided eye contact, now they nodded again. Some even apologized. Awkwardly, quickly, but still, it mattered, because now they